So the question is why, Lex mentioned earlier that chanting is effective in a group, and she's curious why that is.
Well, there's more energy, as we experienced. That's really the reason. If you have a group of people, there's just more juice put into the sound and the mantra. Now, having said that, people do practice mantras, as in transcendental meditation, by themselves. So, but if you have the opportunity to work in a group with a mantra, I think it's better.
Do either of you want to touch on, group chanting versus individual practice?
The normal resting heart rate is about 80 beats per minute. And so music is very soothing because it matches the heartbeat. That particular Tibetan singing bowl is 83 beats per minute. So part of it is physiological as to why music is that way. And chant in the Christian tradition was meant to bring you into that rested heart rate. It's physiological and spiritual.
There's also a sense of community that grows. We are all literally vibrating together, and that gives rise to a certain sense of support and fellowship.
Thanks. Go ahead.
It is about technique respiration. I know that we should focus on inhaling and exhaling as the basic physical part of meditation. But I've noticed that sometimes when I stop breathing and when I'm relaxed, when I'm 5 to 10 minutes into meditation, I stop breathing, and I get this very twinklish, this energy thing that fills my body. It feels very intense to the point that it's sort of like I need to wake up, make me shiver a little. Is that something wrong that would deter me from getting into a deeper state of meditation, or is that something positive, or should I not do that? Should I continue breathing all the time through the meditation?
So he's asking, sometimes when he's meditating, he gets this sort of full body, really intense kind of feeling, buzzing feeling. And is that indicative of a problem, or is there a way he's practicing that he could improve upon, or is that something that's normal? Or if you want to touch on that. So it has to do with breathing technique.
It's your technique.
Well, you'll remember to breathe. I mean, when you meditate, the breath does become shallow. The very thought, oh, I'm not breathing, is a thought that will start the breath again. So in yoga breathing, and I'll just tie it into the yoga tradition, the deeper you breathe, the slower the breath, and you actually breathe in 8 times the amount of oxygen per breath each breath, as compared to what's called inverted or upper chest breathing. So you actually extend your life. I'm not directing it to meditation, but just through complete yoga breathing. If you follow me through, you're taking fewer breaths, so you live longer. See, I'm actually 96. I just breathe slowly. I used to say I'm 66, but I really am, and it's not so fun anymore. So, but I do hear your question. The deeper you go into meditation, the more shallow the breath. But you will remember to breathe. So is it good, bad? It's just the way it is. Does that help at all?
Sort of. The question is, I can get to be very still, so still that I don't need to breathe, and it feels good, very intense, this twinkling feeling go up and down the body.
Nice.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Question about the long-term health outcome and the meditation. If long-term outcome, are there any particular lineage, any particular tradition that are more promising than the average?
So he's asking for longevity. You know, there's links between the longevity and contemplative practice or meditation. He's asking if there's any particular lineage that will make you live longer. Do any of you have anything to say about that?
Not really, but I just saw that study also. Somebody sent it to me, comparing the lifespan of Japanese women. There are, in Tibet, there are certain practices that are considered to be long life practices, and I don't know of any study, and not that many people do them. They're advanced practices. I don't know of any study that surveys how that pans out for the larger population. And, you know, important as the health outcomes are, and there's no question that it seems that certainly one's longevity could be extended simply because of reducing stress. And stress is a huge perpetrator of many other kinds of illness. But I'd just like to mention that if we go to the traditions themselves, at least I'll speak for the Buddhist tradition, its ultimate purpose is not to lengthen life. Its ultimate purpose is to really get the juice out of this life, which has to do with experiencing one's own nature and to get that richness, which isn't to say these two things are antithetical, but it is a different kind of emphasis. White Tara in the Indian and Buddhist traditions is associated with long life. Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? I know there's that one person that's dying to ask a question but is too shy to raise their hands. So now's the time.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. There you go. There's the guy.
I asked myself a question, then I answered. See, when we were practicing this prayerful practice in the Christian tradition, how many people felt that the time was shorter than it really was? Raise your hand. Welcome aboard.
Okay, well, I guess that's it. Oh, yeah, there we go. So it's a question about focusing on heart rate and heartbeat versus focusing on breathing, which is a really great question because both are pretty apparent when you're still. So, Lex.
You know, I think you should really be up here teaching this. It really doesn't matter. You're doing great. Yeah. So why did you come? Yes. So just one quick announcement. Those of you that are here that are collecting hours for either Yoga Alliance or the advanced training, I have certificates for you. So grab me before you walk out the door. Okay.
Yeah, we have another question.
Any of you experience, you know, you've been doing this so long, and you're teaching us how to do it, and it's probably second nature, maybe, I don't know. It's kind of part of the question. Do you ever find yourself in a situation, at a place, or with a person, or alone, or whatever, where you're not meaning to fall into this place that you're teaching us to go to, that you just find yourself in without much effort
So this.
and much, like,
So this is a great question. For experienced practitioners of contemplative practice or meditation, the question is, do you ever find yourself sort of, is it easier to fall into that place that you do when you meditate? And do you find yourself sometimes not meaning to fall into the place when you're in a certain situation and then doing so? It's just a question about experience and meditation and how your practice will change with experience. Maybe we'll get a comment from everyone.
All right. certainly through practice, the qualities that one is cultivating become more available. So there are multiple qualities like compassion. So maybe instead of feeling furious that somebody has done such and such, I think, oh, so that quality of compassion may come a little more frequently than it used to. And depending on the tradition, I mean, in the Buddhist traditions, really, one is seeking to be always in that state. It's not a question of falling into it. One is seeking to be always in a state of presence, and that is not so easy. But that's very much the purpose. And, it's humbling. You practice and practice and practice, and then things just draw you off, and then you laugh, and oh, okay, so I'll go and practice some more. It's not it's a gentle curve, but definitely there's something more available for you over time in different lines of access, I would say.
I'll defer to my wife. I don't know. Nanoseconds in moments. Yeah. Some longer, some shorter.
Practice, but with practice, yes. I find myself at a stop sign with my foot on the brake and doing it for a minute between light changes. I do not do it at 60 miles an hour.
Well, thank you all so much, and thank you for coming. Before I hand it over to John for some final words, I just wanted to let you know that there are some materials at the back. Bob mentioned earlier that he has a book and a DVD that is available for purchase, and also Dr. Klein has provided us some materials, and especially there's an event being held at Dawn Mountain on the 21st of this month that's free, that you can pick up a flyer for. And I'm sure any of these good people will be willing to answer further questions to you as you make your way home.
I wanted to tell you, I believe the most important single thing we can do right now in the United States is to reach out to people across borders, across religious traditions, across racial traditions. And what's happened here tonight, I think, is extremely important. Do y'all realize what has taken place? We begin to see ourselves as one. And I want to tell you, I thought it was rich having these three traditions presented so beautifully and richly, and yet they sounded like the same. Isn't that interesting? Where we used to think, we Christians would think, people in Eastern religion, oh my goodness. And they probably thought the same of us. But now I think we're at the point that we're beginning to see that if we're going to live together on this planet, we're going to have to break down these kind of barriers, and these kind of meetings are where that will happen. And I'm just so blessed that we're doing it here at the Institute. Would y'all please give a round of applause for Stuart Nelson, who has labored hard to make this happen, and it is from a deep passion in his heart. And what a blessing these three speakers have been to all of us. So please go in peace, to love one another, to love the Lord if you're in that tradition, but go in peace. Good night.